All right, so for problem number 2, we're given f of x equals negative 3x squared minus 9, where x is greater than or equal to 0. What does that tell you about f inverse? Well, whatever f inverse is, we know that the range, because this is a domain restriction, right? We know that the range will be y is greater than or equal to 0, right? Because the domain on f becomes the range on f inverse. So let's go through the process, change this for y. Next step, we've got to solve for x. All right, I'm going to add 9 to both sides. I get y plus 9 equals negative 3x squared, divided by negative 3, divided by negative 3. I get y plus 9, divided by negative 3 equals x squared. Take the square root of both sides. Remember, when you take the square root, you have to think about positive and negative, but if I say the range is greater than or equal to 0, what does that tell you? Which square root do we keep, the positive or the negative? Yeah, we're going to end up keeping the positive. So that becomes y plus 9 all over negative 3 equals x. Next step, we're going to swap the x and y. So I've got the square root of x plus 9 divided by negative 3, that equals y. So then the inverse would be the square root of x plus 9 all over negative 3. Okay. Now here's a weird thing. The domain, we have to define the domain of f inverse, right? So this, whatever this thing is, it has to be positive, right? Because I can't take the square root of a negative number, or it has to be 0 or greater. So you take this whole thing to define the domain. You're going to take this whole thing here, x plus 9 all over negative 3, and make sure that it's greater than or equal to 0. So I want you to think about that. Write it down real quick, and then we're going to think about that. What am I saying? I'm saying the stuff under the square root symbol has to be greater than or equal to 0, because it can't be negative, because I can't take the square root of a negative number. Now I have to solve for x to define the domain. It's not that hard. To get rid of the negative 3, I do the inverse. So I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 3. Negative 3 divided by negative 3 is 1. 1 times this stuff here is just this stuff. What's negative 3 times 0? Ow, it hurts. It hurts. 0. Okay? Now what do I do? Subtract 9. So I get x actually has to be greater than negative 9. I don't know why I wrote 7. So my domain of f inverse has to be greater than or equal to negative 9. Oh man, that's a lot of work. So I think we're going to fire up Desmos for this. What do you guys think? Should we? All right, cool. Let's do it. Gonna do it. So I'm going to put in my first function, which is negative 3x squared minus 9. Remember, we can define the domain by just plugging it in brackets or braces. Actually, those are braces. Yeah. So that would be x, and in Desmos, in order to get the greater than or equal, you just hit greater than. I always gloss over this real quick. I kind of go through it quickly. Now I want it to be equals then, so I'm going to hit the equal sign. Now when I hit the equal sign, you'll see an equal sign for a fraction of a second, and then it changes. Well, I guess you don't even see it, and then it changes it to greater than or equal to 0. Boom. Now, oops, wrong thing. Okay. Now this is it right here. This is the function. Okay? It's way over here at 9. All right, now let's plug in our inverse. So we're going to say the square root of x plus 9. Let me see if I could do this. Oh, shoot. Negative 3. All right, does that look right? But now I have to define the domain. Dang it. All right. We said that x has to be greater than or equal to 9. Now, the calculator already knows that because you could see that that's how it was graphing it anyways, negative 9. Yes? What do you mean you can't see anything on the board?
If you're typing, you don't see anything. We see you, not you.
Oh, because I had it over too far? Oh, my bad. Huh, that's an interesting thing. Wait, did I write that down right? Oh, shoot. Let's do this. Let's put this negative in the front. Silly goose, guess what I did? I made a mistake. Where did I make the mistake? Hey, what happens? What happens when we multiply by a negative number? What are we supposed to do with this inequality symbol? Yeah, we're supposed to flip it. How many of you guys didn't say anything? Oh, guys, I can't be perfect all the time. It's okay, though. I did that on purpose to let you guys know that, hey, it's okay to make mistakes. So remember, whenever we multiply or divide by a negative number, we have to flip that inequality symbol. So because I forgot to flip the inequality symbol, I was freaking out because it wasn't graphing properly. That's why I like to go through these steps. Oops. All right, there we go. Boom. Now, if you look at the options, and it's like 12 to 12. Let me scan this. Oh, you know what? Let's do the diagonal first. Don't forget to graph the diagonal because that's helpful. And then I always like to do the fancy diagonal, right? With the dots. So you could see the symmetry. There it goes. So if I look on your guys's on the problem there, we got a graph similar to this. I gotta save this. If I was smart, I would have labeled a little better. F inverse of x of x. And then lastly, this is the diagonal, which is y equals x. Okay, you have the symmetry. And then probably for good measure, we know that this goes on forever this way, right? We also know that this goes on forever. Dang it. Right? Any questions on that one?